Hi, I'm Ryan Tishone. I'm a member of the Youth Committee for the Scotland-Malawi Partnership, currently in Paisley, Scotland, born in Scotland.
Hi, welcome to the Youth Festival for 2021. My name is Josephine Chikwana. I am Ryan's co-host, and we're excited to be presenting to you our podcast on race and equality. So I was thinking we can dive right into it and discuss maybe some of our experiences. So I am Malawian, and being in Scotland for these past few months has been an interesting experience for me. Maybe we could start with your experiences though, Ryan. Have you ever been to Malawi?
Yeah, I've been twice. Once with my secondary school in 2016, and then a second time in 2017 for a longer time, where it was just basically a group of friends essentially just going over with a charity to help build schools.
Okay. Maybe do you want to elaborate into more details on your first or second experience? What was your goal or aim, and what were your key highlights during your time there?
For both trips, the sort of main objective was to build classroom blocks. So the school, we managed to raise enough money to build 5. So we went over there to basically just finish up the construction, because with the charity we do, it's very much God, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, as a partnership, so they pay local builders to build the units. So that's basically them getting a job, employment.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just us just showing up and handing over money. It's Classrooms for Malawi is set up to basically employ local builders and local workforces to help renovate an area, basically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you remember the city or area or school?
I know you pulled me up for pronouncing this wrong. You've done this on purpose.
I really have.
Zenza?
Nedza. You tried. Okay.
Dyslexic, leave me alone.
How many people did you go with? Like, I understand that you guys had builders from Malawi, but what was your main aim? So was it to empower Malawians, to empower the builders and these laborers, or I'm trying to understand the aspect of this charity. What was the main reason for choosing Malawi in particular, and why Dedza? Do you know?
Well, that was just Classrooms for Malawi. They employ people over there. Currently, it's a guy called Des.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure if that was just his nickname that he told us now. But anyway, he used to work for the Education Administration over there. So basically, what his job is, he goes around and evaluates each area and figures out which ones are sort of like the most deprived or need the most help, and sort of flags them up to Classrooms for Malawi. And any money raised, they get selected to get renovated and extra funding, basically.
Yeah. A tricky situation usually with such projects is how you well, I mean, Malawians will get the funds, but how they will be used. Okay, the question I'm actually trying to ask is, who determined how those funds were going to be used? Was it your end, or was it the Malawian end who told you, we believe we need these classrooms? Because something that tends to happen is we sometimes assume the funds are allocated to us, telling us, oh, we know that there are people that there are no classrooms in Malawi, so we are coming to give you funds specifically for classrooms. But us as Malawians, or people from living in the actual area, believe you're seeing it in a wrong aspect. You're seeing it in a wrong point of view, because we're here and we're thinking the bigger issue is the fact that we don't have, a good supply of water. So we'd rather build a borehole or drill, some wells so that people can get easier access to water, as opposed to you building classrooms for us. So back to the question, sorry for diverting, but who or what determined you guys allocating the funds to the classrooms in particular?
It's sort of a mix of both. Like over the course, things sort of changed. So, like the years before I went out, only 1 year before it actually went over, but for a good few years beforehand, we were raising money for the school in the area. And previously, they've built water wells, raised money for a girls' toilet block because they didn't have one. So we sort of thought that would be a good issue. But one thing where they ended up turning round and saying to us was, we got the idea of wanting to sort of give money for crops, almost like an orchard.
Okay.
And they just turned around and said, it's like, with the weather we've got here, there's no way that we could get the crops to survive. And they asked us if they could put the money to better use to spend on getting livestock. And of course, like, we completely agreed with that, and that's what they done. They bought goats. But again, like, that's completely get what you mean. Like, again, it's just, if we just made that decision then without any communication, then they would have been money wasted. Basically, it would have just have crops that would have failed, and there would have been a complete waste of time on both sides.
Yeah, completely. Well, I'm glad to and happy to hear that this was a consensual agreement, and the funds were allocated to, well, the right avenue in that aspect. Though usually that isn't the case, or that's a complaint that comes from my point of view. That usually when we get funds or sponsorship or aid from your end, it's more of something that's more beneficial to in your eyes, in your point of view, without actually considering what would be beneficial on our grounds. This is where I think we're being it comes back into the whole colonization part too. So it's, well, we are the ones providing the aid, so we believe this is where the money is going to go. And this is usually a tricky situation, because then this is why we end up with issues of theft, and the money isn't actually going to the right beneficiaries, because the people you're talking to are receiving the money because they're trying to please you. So they're trying to help the people aiding us, giving us the aid, trying to please them by telling them, okay, yeah, great, you're giving us money and we're definitely going to build classes. But half of that money actually isn't spent on the classrooms that you assume we're building, but it's being spent on so many other different avenues just because we wanted the aid. So I think one problem there is we believe we're meant to take, and the only way we can take is by listening to the demands that you have, or the demands that have been provided or stipulated on us. So if it's to build a classroom, we want the money, so we will build the classroom as a face, but behind the scenes, we're using the money for so many different things. Yeah, I'm not sure if you have any more comments on that line of.
Yeah, well, the year after me, I'm pretty sure they were the last year to at least work on that school, because we came to the conclusion, it got to the point where the sort of headmistress was, asking for her to get a new office and everything and all that sort of built for her,
Mm-hmm.
which that's not what we're there for. It's to sort of help, the whole community and the sort of children, not just this one woman to have a nice fancy office. And got to the point where more and more people were moving to that area just to use that school. So we
Oh,
sort of
yeah.
came to the decision that we were then going to, move on and find a different location, just so we're not just building up one area to be a sort of, super nice, renovated, where everybody will go to, sort of end up spreading out the wealth, because it gets to a point where there's nothing else you really can do, and it is just sort of throwing money at unnecessary sort of things, which is just
Yeah.
what people are asking for at the end of it, which isn't really to benefit anyone. So I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure that's what they've done. They've sort of moved on and they've found another school to partner up with and start from the ground up again, and hopefully take the lessons learned from the first one with communication and us going over and seeing the actual work and how everything works, what's needed and what isn't, and learn from that.
Yeah. Well, I think that's definitely going to be a problem that is going to be hard to break, because speaking from a Malawian point of view, when we get the aid, we look at it as, oh, these guys have so much money to give us. They're so privileged, so they're here to help us. And it's really funny to hear that people started relocating to this school because it was the one receiving the aid. That definitely sounds like something that we are going to do, but only because the main question that we'll have is why them? Why are they getting the aid and why not everybody else? So I think it still goes back to the issue of we don't know why sometimes the funds are being allocated to a certain avenue or a certain area of development and not other areas, like you said. So I really do hope that the other school that you have been partnered or they partnered with is doing better in terms of making more use of this aid. I just wanted to know, when you did visit, what were your grounds of visiting? So did you have any friends? Did you make any friends in Malawi?
Yeah, but again, it was sort of more, not so much the school children, because again, it was like a lot of them try to, come out and interact in that, but it's like, it's, during their school week and school days, so we sort of encouraged as much of the teachers in that to, get them back into classrooms and learning, which is, what we're building all the stuff for.
Mm-hmm.
So sort of most of the people we met were more adults in that.
Did the schools not try to partner you up? Because I assume part of this project was to also, considering you guys were school children, you might have found people around the same age. And I think it would have been a great initiative to try to get people to partner up, become, pen pals. And, I still probably have that mentality to think, well, you have access to more opportunities, So by virtue of being friends with you, get the right network and, I could find an opportunity for myself for you to invite me over to Scotland or invite me over or help me apply for scholarships or conferences. So I want to know if any initiative was made to get pen pals or friends.
Yeah, there was definitely that. I didn't meet my pen pal. I don't really know what happened. I got no contact, but a few people did, and again, they were waiting for us to be there. It's sort of, again, like you were saying, that's kind of exactly what happened, which is, it's a sad thing to sort of say, and even to see it happen. But yeah, there was one boy who sort of, I'm pretty sure he was one of the sons from one of the teachers, and he was, slightly more educated than the rest. I'm guessing he got extra, schooling at home. But basically, like, he knew how to get like under everyone's skin and bring them back to his place and get them all on phones. But I sort of saw what was kind of happening there and just trying to avoid it. And the second year that I went back, it was the same thing, bringing over gifts and notes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we were there working, so I tried to just, I was being pleasant enough, but tried to ignore it. It got to the point where he was basically just demanding what gifts I'd sort of brought from him, and
Oh, yeah.
it was just, there's nothing really you can say to that. We just sort of tried to explain that sort of the work we're doing is sort of what we're bringing across. It's like that the infrastructure is what we're doing. We're not here to, just hand out wealth that we honestly don't have ourselves. And one boy, George, his pen pal, he was there the first year in that and sort of started to get that way. We tried to tell him to ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that's up to him what he done. But again, it came to the second year we went over, and he was recognised as was looking about for him. He didn't come with us, and again, it was handing over little notes. But this time, the note and letter was essentially just a shopping list of everything that he needs for his schools, and same with like his brothers and siblings. And it's just sort of, you're sort of put in an a position, because you don't know. Obviously, the letter's for George, and he's asking us to take it home, but it's difficult to go back with those letters and put that pressure on him, because he's got no real contact to get back over there, and he's just sort of left with this heartbreaking list of things that he can never really get across to. Yeah, I mean, again, it's you don't really know who's writing the notes, because like I said, it's like the original sort of letters you could tell were done by him, and then they just slowly started to change more and more over time. And you get shown little plays, and that when we arrived, it's sort of like a cultural exchange, and there was one that really they wanted to highlight to us, and it was how like the older generation were trying to stop the younger ones going to school. We're trying to get them to sort of going to begging and asking for stuff, because obviously that's what they grew up with, and that's what they grew up with working with, how the older generations have pretty much handled this. And we're here and we're trying to stop that. And the only way to stop that is by, not giving things away, which you just feel horrible and feel like the monster. But it's the only way to get the point across, that the way to get out of this isn't through begging and looking for stuff constantly. It comes down to staying in school, getting the education, and then you can move on and help create something new.
Yeah. Oh, I completely get you. It's really sad, honestly, because coming from that point of view, I unfortunately can relate. I can actually put myself in their shoes and see that they see you. You've come in, you're of a different race. You probably have amazing clothes, because then I assume you're going to a rural area. That's a primary, or that's a school, as you're putting it. I've actually never been there, because that isn't a capital city. It's not a really big city, and it's in the central, I know, of Malawi, but it's really not the urban city. So you must have been meeting the rural area kids, and they're looking at you dressed up in these amazing clothes. You're coming with technology, and you're coming with cameras. I probably just look at you and think, oh, you're so privileged. And if you can manage to come here, the least you can do is bring me presents. Our friendship is more of, I'm here to take. And I think he probably, I feel sorry for George, who clearly didn't get the relationship that he was looking for from his pen pal. But unfortunately, I think even as you go higher, I've noticed as you grow older, that's the same aspect. That's the older generation are looking at. You're looking at people who have access to the British, British inner circle, or British way of doing things. I don't know how to put it, the best way of putting it, but I assume you coming from Scotland just gave them the impression of, you're here to give us, we're here to take. There's nothing that I believe I can provide or I can deliver to you. I mean, speaking in line of, I am currently in my second semester of studies, and one of the challenges I'm facing right now is the school system in Malawi is, I would say, is cannot compare to the one that University of Edinburgh offers. So you look at the way that they mark, the way that the school is delivered, the education is delivered, the teaching and learning and access that I have here is completely different from the one I would have had if I was doing an online school, even back at home. It's completely different. And I just think growing up Malawian, before I came to Scotland, I didn't even know that some of these things were possible, that you get access to so many great things. And I think, unfortunately, we're not equal in that aspect. We are definitely far behind. We're falling behind. It's hard for me to adapt to the education system here, to the constant readings, to the work, or the way I write my assignments, or the way I do things, because back home it's more of I could study the lecture, I could study the I don't know how to put it, but we don't really empower people to learn the content per se. We're sort of focused on passing exams. So you can pass exams if you're the teacher's pet, for example. But it's a completely different here. Not that I passed my exams because I was a teacher's pet, by the way, but
Sure, that's what they all say.
but there are small little issues like that that I'm struggling to adjust to. You know, the load of work.
Yeah, there was one thing with the school we flew over their old headmaster and old deputy head to visit Scotland, and there was one thing that he said that's always stuck with me, and it was like the Scotland, Malawi, like we're I think he said it was like we're 50 years ahead of you here, but not as
Yeah,
in technology, because technology advances the same around the world. Like you still, when we're over there, we still saw people with iPads and phones and texting and stuff like that. He said it was like the mentality. It's like over here, it's everything needs to get done now, and it's always in a rush. You're always trying to keep ahead. Well, in Malawi, you've sort of got Malawian time where everything's a lot more laid back,
yes,
and like, we can do it later, and it's like, oh, we can finish it off tomorrow. And I mean, that was the running joke on the construction site, was Malawi time. Like we ran out of a material and nothing was bought like in advance. It was always be when we run out, then we'll go and get more.
exactly. That's definitely how we look at things back home. So it's a really fast-paced life, and it's hard for me to adjust. It really shows the culture differences or the way of living, the differences in the way of living, the way the culture differences, and how I sad to say, privileges. I always still call it privileges because I'm actually everybody in Malawi is looking at me and saying, "How did you get to Scotland? We want to come to Scotland." And it's only because they know of I've now like unlocked this new privilege that nobody back home, has access to, and it's quite true. My life here is completely different from back home. Load shedding, I don't think you guys have those. Do you remember the last time the lights went off?
No, not really. But one of the weird things was when over there, we were over by the lake on one of our sort of recce days, and basically they were basically telling us how whenever is it Prime Minister or President?
Yeah, the president.
Yeah, President. Whenever he's got his holiday home on the lake, whenever he stays there, they have power the whole time he stays there.
Yeah,
There's no dropouts at all. So basically, whenever he comes to stay, they want him to stay longer.
that
Because
is
mainly it was
that is definitely true. I think it's you see it still goes back to privilege. So it's either you're wealthy and you can afford to buy generators and the electricity will be on all the time, or you're a member of parliament and you're an important person in Malawi, and that's the only way you get these small little privileges. So I think there's still many issues that are existing between the two countries in terms of equality and race. Do you really think? Can you pinpoint any issue that you think in the next year or 2 years, maybe our generation can try and bridge that gap in terms of race and equality?
I think just sort of highlighting that, even though we're different races, we're still, the same underneath. We still have the same problems, anxieties about school and family and the future, like job prospects.
Mm-hmm.
It's the infrastructure that's different, and it's just if we can work together to set it up to be stable and not us having to constantly, raise money and sort of send money over, but for it to become, sort of sustainable and a constant thing for able to develop, then I feel like we could definitely get rid of it.
Yeah, I do completely agree. I love how you've talked about the sustainable way of developing Malawi. I think we really need to shift that. I think currently we still have, as Malawians, we still have that view or image of you guys as you guys are of a different race. By virtue of being a different race, you're privileged. You're there to help me. You're there to just give me food. You're there to feed me. So I think there's still a lot that can happen. There's still things that we need to change in terms of
one horrible thing when we were sort of at markets. It was one of our bus drivers pointed it out. Again, oh God, I feel horrible, but I suppose that's what this is for. But again, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it, but basically we kept getting, called Azungo and shouted over. And basically we got pointed out that is the racial slur.
It is.
The equivalent giving to white people. And it was basically like the thing that we basically done to combat it was, well, we spoke with very little Chichewa we could, which surprised them and opened them up. But again, it was very much, it was, no, you don't call me. My name is, and we would give them our names and basically try and bridge a gap between it that way, like without us just being associated with being, I mean, I know that sounds horrible with everything that happens, over here with Black Lives Matter and that, and it's nowhere near the same comparison, but it was the fact that being pointed out to us, and then we were able to sort of set up a dialogue with the people.
Exactly.
And, and after that, you were joking and laughing around, but it was just as soon as it got pointed out and you were just, that realization that basically everybody was just shouting abuse at us, but we had no clue until someone pointed it out.
Exactly.
But I like the idea that we managed to form a dialogue with the people who were doing it and, gave them names, and we learnt their names and bartered and everything like that, and hopefully we might have changed some of their views that just shouting that to call people over isn't the correct way to do things anymore.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's calling you Azungu. Actually, that's how it is. Azungu or Mzungu. So that is definitely, white, that's pointing out, yeah, that person is white. Look at them, that person is white. So, and you're asking yourself, what are you looking at per se? What exactly are you looking at? But it seems to be a thing, and that is an issue of race, and same thing happens sadly for me, who went to a British a curriculum high school. I went to school that taught the British curriculum, and I had many white friends, and being able to speak English like this, they, Malawians also still look at you and think, who is this person? She's speaking English. She's a white person, but she's black. So it's unfair to have that. But it's true, I guess, that I'm a white person in quotes only because I can speak English, but I don't think that's a thing. And I think these are things that these are issues we need to bridge between Malawians and Scotland. And I think once we can see past the race, and once we can, like you said, realize that we're all facing, similar problems, we could probably come to a proper consensual agreement that could be beneficial to both countries. All right, that's it from us. Thank you for joining us on today's podcast. You have been with me, Josephine Ekira Chikwana, and my co-host,
Ryan Tishoni. Thank you for listening. Make sure to look us up and follow us using hashtag ScotMalawiYouth, especially on our brand new Instagram, still under ScotMalawiYouth. One of the brand new platforms created and run by the Youth Committee to help get your voices and opinions heard. So look forward to seeing you and hearing your opinions. Till next time. Yeah.